Babylon. Just say the name. It echoes through thousands of years, and it instantly conjures up these incredible images of staggering wealth, legendary wonders, and, just deep ancient mystery. It's so much more than a place on a map. It's an idea, a symbol of just how high human ambition can soar, and a reminder of how everything eventually fades.
But that's the real question, isn't it? How does an actual city, a place with streets and homes and people, made of brick and mortar, transform into a legend that still has this grip on our imagination thousands of years later? Well, to figure that out, we're going to journey back, peel away all those layers of myth, and find the incredible, true story buried underneath.
The city's whole identity was right there in its names. In its own language, Akkadian, its name meant Gate of God. So it saw itself as a sacred bridge to the divine. But then you have the Bible, which called it the Mistress of Kingdoms, a name that speaks to its raw, earthly power and its total dominance. So on one hand, a gateway to the heavens, and on the other, the master of the world.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at its first big rise to power, then witness its absolutely spectacular golden age. After that, we'll dive into its dramatic fall, trace its journey from a forgotten ruin to a modern archaeological site, and finally, we'll look at the incredible echoes it still leaves on our world today. Okay, our story really kicks off almost 4,000 years ago, during a time we call the Old Babylonian period. This is the moment Babylon goes from being just another city to being the heart of a brand new empire, making its first big splash on the world stage.
And the man who made it all happen was King Hammurabi. This guy was an absolute master of strategy. He was so much more than just a warrior. He was clever. He'd make an alliance with one city to help him crush another, and then, when the time was right, he'd turn on his former ally. It was this brilliant, ruthless mix of diplomacy and war that turned Babylon from a nobody into the capital of all Mesopotamia.
But here's what was truly genius about him. Hammurabi's greatest legacy wasn't some bloody battle. It was a set of laws. Now, why was this such a game changer? Well, before this, justice was usually just whatever the king or a priest decided in that moment. It could be totally random. By carving 282 laws onto this massive stone pillar for everyone to see, Hammurabi was making a statement. He was saying justice isn't a secret, it's a written public standard. This was a radical idea that the law itself, not just the king, was in charge. That's a concept that is foundational to pretty much every legal system we have today.
Okay, now we're going to jump forward in time, a long way forward, over 1,000 years. After centuries of being pushed around, Babylon comes roaring back onto the scene. It enters this spectacular golden age, creating the legendary city that would leave the ancient world completely speechless.
The king behind this revival was Nebuchadnezzar II, and over his 43-year reign, he funneled the unbelievable wealth of his empire right back into his capital city. And he wasn't just fixing things up, he was building on a scale that was just mind-boggling, using millions upon millions of baked bricks, each one stamped with his own name. Under his rule, the city just exploded in size, growing to about 1,000 hectares. The population might have hit 200,000 people, which would make it the first city in history to ever reach that number. This wasn't just a big city. It was the world's first true megalopolis. I mean, just try to imagine what it would be like to walk up to this place. You'd be staring at these massive double walls so thick they said a chariot could do a U-turn on top. You'd walk through the Ishtar Gate, a towering monument covered in these brilliant blue glazed bricks with images of lions and dragons. Inside, your gaze would be pulled up to the colossal Etemenanke Ziggurat, the temple of the foundation of heaven and earth, which is almost certainly the inspiration for the Tower of Babel story. And then, of course, there were the legendary Hanging Gardens. It's such a romantic story, right? A powerful king builds an entire artificial mountain of lush green plants in the middle of the desert, all to make his wife happy, because she missed the green hills of her homeland. But here's the twist. For all of the digging we've done, archaeologists have never found any solid proof they were ever in Babylon. And what's really strange is that the Greek historian Herodotus, who described the city's walls in great detail, doesn't say a single word about them. That silence has led some to think the gardens might have actually been in the rival city of Nineveh. It's a mystery that we still can't solve.
But you know how these stories go. For all its incredible splendor, this golden age just couldn't last forever. The very conquests that made Babylon so powerful also planted the seeds of a downfall that would become just as legendary as its rise.
A huge turning point was the conquest of Jerusalem in 587 BC.
Nebuchadnezzar's army destroyed the city's sacred temple and forced many of its people into what's known as the Babylonian exile. This one historical event would forever link Babylon's story with the Hebrew Bible, cementing its image in the West as a symbol of overwhelming power and, well, corruption.
What's wild is that long before Babylon even hit its peak, prophecies were already being written about its ultimate doom. This one, from the book of Isaiah, was written almost 200 years before the city actually fell. I mean, think about that. To predict that the greatest city in the world would not just be conquered, but would be completely and permanently wiped out, that was an incredibly bold claim to make.
So, how did the impregnable city finally fall? In 539 BC, the Persian king, Cyrus the Great, pulled off a move of pure military genius. He knew the city was in the middle of a huge festival and wouldn't be paying attention. So, his army diverted the entire Euphrates River, which flowed right through the middle of Babylon. As the water level sank, his soldiers just waded through the mud, slipped right under the river gates, and took the city. The invincible capital fell in a single night, basically without a fight. Now, falling to the Persians wasn't an instant death sentence, but it was the beginning of a long, slow fade. The city that was once the center of the known world would slowly empty out until it became nothing more than a memory buried under the Iraqi desert. As you can see here, Babylon was just passed from one empire to the next. Alexander the Great was so amazed by it, he actually planned to make it the capital of his own empire, but he died there before he could. Later kings built their own new capitals, and people just started leaving Babylon. By the time the Parthian Empire took over the area, the city was already a shadow of its former self. And by the 1st or 2nd century AD, it was pretty much abandoned, a ghost town filled with its own magnificent ruins.
For almost 2,000 years, Babylon was more of a story than a real place. Its great ziggurats crumbled into hills of dirt. Its palaces became quarries. People from nearby villages would come and take its ancient, high-quality bricks to build their own houses. The physical city literally vanished, even as the legend grew bigger and bigger. That is, until a German archaeologist named Robert Koldewey began digging in 1899 and finally proved to the world that the legendary city was real.
But finding the city didn't mean it was safe, not even close. The site has had a really rough time in the modern era. People have been looting its ancient bricks for years. In the 1920s, a railway line was built right through the middle of the ruins. Later, oil and gas pipelines were run across it. Infamously, Saddam Hussein built one of his palaces right on top of the original foundations, causing unbelievable damage. And then, after 2003, the site was used as a military base, where heavy vehicles crushed 2,600-year-old roads and other ancient structures. It's tragic.
And yet, despite this history of decay and damage, Babylon's story is not over. Its legacy, the echo it left on civilization, is maybe even more powerful and more permanent than its great walls ever were.
And that importance was finally given the recognition it deserves. In 2019, after a campaign that lasted an incredible 36 years, the archaeological site of Babylon was officially named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was this huge, triumphant moment, a global acknowledgement that this place, this story, belongs to all of us. And this is exactly why it matters so much. Babylon wasn't just about big buildings. It was a hotbed for ideas that literally shaped our world. The very idea of public, written law owes a huge debt to Hammurabi. And have you ever wondered why there are 60 seconds in a minute or 360 degrees in a circle? Yep, that comes directly from the Babylonians and their base 60 mass system. Their incredibly detailed star charts laid the groundwork for modern astronomy. Their legacy is woven into the very fabric of how we tell time, measure space, and understand the universe. You know, looking at these two images side by side, it's a really powerful experience. On one side, you have the vibrant, thrumming heart of a global empire in all its glory. And on the other, the quiet, sun-baked ruins that are left today. It's just a stark, humbling reminder of the rise and fall of civilizations. A lesson that even the greatest powers on Earth eventually become echoes in the dust.
And that brings us to one final thought. Babylon left us the foundations of law, mathematics, and timeless legends of both wonder and ruin. Thousands of years from now, when people look back at what's left of our world, what stories are they going to tell about us? What ideas, what warnings, what wonders, what kind of echoes will our civilization leave behind?
History isn't dust, it's a journey through time. Here on History LM, we tell it simply and fast. If you love discovering the past in just a few minutes, hit like and follow History LM. Your next journey through time is waiting.